sandwiched between Amos and Jonah, Obadiah in the Old Testament. When you get there and you're ready, just look up here and I'll know we can start. I see one already there.
Yes.
Well, she knew where we was going, so. Yeah. You there? Okay, all right. Got it? All right. Morning, folks. We're in the book of Obadiah. Obadiah. We're just getting started. All right, I'm going to start reading. We're going to read verses 1 through 15. The vision of Obadiah, thus says Lord Yahweh, concerning Edom. We have heard a report from Yahweh, and an envoy has been sent among the nations, saying, Arise, and let us arise against her for battle. Behold, I will make you small among the nations. You are greatly despised. The arrogance of your heart has deceived you, you who dwell in the clefts of the cliff. In the height of your habitation, who says in his heart, Who will bring me down to earth? Though you build loftily like the eagle, though you set your nest among the stars, from there I will bring you down, declares Yahweh. If thieves came to you, if robbers by night, oh, how you would be ruined. Would they not thieve only until they had enough? If grape gatherers came to you, will they not allow some gleanings to remain? Oh, how Esau will be searched out and his hidden treasures ransacked. All the men who have a covenant with you will send you forth to the border. And the men at peace with you will deceive you and overpower you. They who eat your bread will set an ambush for you. There is no discernment in him. Will I not on that day, declares Yahweh, cause the wise men to perish from Eden, and discernment from the mountain of Esau? Then your mighty men will be dismayed, O Teman, so that each one may be cut off from the mountain of Esau by slaughter. Because of violence to your brother Jacob, you will be covered with shame, and you will be cut off forever. On the day that you stood aloof, on the day that strangers took his wealth captive and foreigners entered his gate and cast lots for Jerusalem, you too were as one of them. Now do not look on your brother's day with triumph, this day of misfortune. And do not be glad over the sons of Judah in the day when they perish. And do not let your mouth speak great things in that day of their distress. Do not enter the gate of my people in the day of their disaster. Indeed, do not look on their calamity with triumph in the day of their disaster. And do not send out for their wealth in the day of their disaster. Do not stand at the fork of the road to cut down those among them who escape. And do not deliver over their survivors in the day of their distress. For the day of Yahweh draws near on all the nations. As you have done it, it will be done to you. Your dealings will return on your own head. Wow. So, Obadiah, smallest book in the Old Testament, packed with doctrine. And it's about two brothers who grew up and became two nations and then just destroyed each other. But the Lord says there's a time coming when that hatred and that violence will come to an end, and he's going to judge all nations. See verse 15. Now, as you know, I greet a lot out here in the foyer, and I ask people, how are you today? And they'll say, I hear this a lot, better than I deserve. And we know who says that. Better than I deserve. Or I hear, we're okay. I hear, I'm blessed beyond measure. I hear, I'm too blessed to be stressed. Well, I have a question for you. Are you too blessed to be a blessing? Are you too blessed to be a blessing? I'm going to ask you a question. I want you to answer honestly, not out loud. Don't throw your hands up. When was the last time you looked at a struggling family member and thought to yourself that you were superior? Whew, I'm glad I'm not like them. God, those poor people. Now, I know we're all perfectly humble saints here, so none of us have that issue, correct? We never think we're better than anybody else. As a matter of fact, I heard two saints talking about this very subject of pride. One saint says to the other, I just don't understand how people can struggle with pride. I just don't get it. I'm not a proud person. And the other saint says, well, I can understand that. I mean, you've done nothing to be proud of. You got nothing to be proud of. And the guy puffs up. I got just as much to be proud of as you do. And there it is. And there it is. Pride, pride, pride. We say we don't have it, but as soon as we're challenged, it kind of rears its ugly head. In all seriousness, though, the sin of pride is devastating. More families are destroyed by pride than poverty. I see families who are poor together. I see families who are rich in pride apart. More churches are split by so-called superiority than sin. And if we don't deal with this pride, if we don't recognize how it operates and destroys, we're going to watch it tear apart the very relationships that God has given us to cherish and protect. As a matter of fact, what we read this morning is the story of two nations, like I said, who were born out of twin brothers. Now, I'm going to be giving you lots of scripture reference in here, so it behooves you to get a sheet of paper out. Jacob became Israel in Genesis 32, it'll tell you there. And Esau, his twin brother, became Edom. Edom means red. So in Genesis 36, we find out that Edom is Esau and Israel is Jacob. So we've got Jacob and Israel. Jacob's pride made him see Esau as an obstacle to overcome rather than a brother to love. I want that blessing. Esau's pride made him see Jacob as a threat to eliminate rather than a brother to forgive. You wronged me, now I've got to get even. Eye for an eye, right? That's the rule. Well, that's sermon for another day about those two brothers. Today we're looking at what happened to Esau's descendants and what happened to Jacob's descendants. How they took their grandfather's pride and they perfected it into a family-destroying weapon. And we'll see how it mirrors families today. Now, the question we have to answer today, and the whole point of this sermon is, will you be Edom, looking down from your fortress at your brother in need, or will you be the brother who builds bridges instead of walls? Now, pride follows a predictable pattern. And there's a lot you could talk about pride, but today the text is Obadiah. So we're going to look at the pattern in Obadiah. We're going to look at this pattern. It follows the same pattern in every family, every generation, every heart. So this applies to you. And that pattern is this. First, it persuades. We're going to get in each one of these. So it persuades. It'll get a hold of you. Second, it poisons your blessings. It will even poison things that God blesses you with. Third, it promotes more sin. And then finally, pride provokes God's judgment. So it persuades you, poisons blessings, promotes more sin, provokes God's judgment. Now we see it clearly in Edom's story here in the book of Obadiah, and we can trace it in our own lives. And as we're going through this, you'll probably start looking back, or you'll probably start thinking about what's going on now. You may be convicted, but we can all grow out of this. Look at the 4 stages of pride's destructive pattern. The first one, as I said, it is persuasive. Verse 3, look in verse 3. The pride of thine heart, what did it do? It deceived him. It persuaded him. Pride doesn't force itself on you. It convinces you. It's a master salesman, makes you believe its lies are your brilliant insights. You think you come up with this all by yourself. Research shows us that pride operates through what psychologists call strategic self-deception. Strategic self-deception. It just doesn't lie to others. It teaches us to lie to ourselves so convincingly that we become walking advertisements of our own superiority. We think we have to be so good or better than others, then we actually start believing the lie. It's so cunning that it convinces you, you'll compare your highlight reels to other people's behind-the-scene footage. And you'll start saying, wow, my highlight reel is so much better than what's going on in that guy's private life. It measures your private victories against their public failures, and you judge their worst moments, not even by your worst moments, but by your best intentions. Well, I wouldn't have done that. Well, what did you do the last time you were presented with that situation? You don't judge what you've done against what they've done. You judge their worst moments against your best intentions. Pride whispers, now we're still talking about how pride persuades. It'll say, you're special. You're special. You're smarter than the rest. You deserve the credit. I mean, come on, you did all this. And before you know it, you're buying what pride is selling, hook, line, and sinker. The devil doesn't have to push you into sin. Our own pride will sell it on us every time. And we walk away thinking we got a bargain. That's a good deal. Thank you, pride. We'll even recommend it to others. You should try being more like me. I got it together. That's pride. Pride doesn't announce itself as the enemy. You know, sin never does. It always comes in as a good idea. Pride will present itself as wisdom. I can see what others can't. It's a gift. As discernment, I'm just being realistic about my abilities. As justified superiority, someone has to maintain standards around here, right? As necessary confidence, if I don't believe in myself, who will? That was a big movement back in the day. As earned recognition. I've worked hard for this respect. And that all leads to pride's favorite question. Notice what Edom said in their heart. Their question was, who shall bring me down to the ground? They were proud. They answered all these questions in the affirmative. One of pride's most persuasive lies is, we're too important to come down. We've got too much going on. Somebody should help them. Because I'm too busy. I'm too important. I got too much going on. It always asks, who can touch me? Do you think you're bulletproof? It'll say, who can hurt me? I got thick skin. You can't hurt me. Who can bring me down? I've climbed too high. No one can bring me down. Who can outsmart me? I've seen it all. Don't even try it. Who can outwork me? I'm irreplaceable. The graveyards are filled with irreplaceable people. My father-in-law told a joke once. He says, you know why they have fences around graveyards? Because people are dying to get in. No one is irreplaceable. It's the question of someone who thinks they're untouchable. The question of who will bring me down. They think they're untouchable, they're invincible, they're above the reach of consequences, they're immune to the laws that govern everyone else, and they're the exception to every rule. You try to pin this person down on something, and they got an exception for it. But you don't understand. You don't understand my situation. You haven't lived in my shoes. You don't know my role. You don't know my history. You don't know my parents. You don't know this. But what they're doing is sinfully pride. Pride's fatal blindness is that it convinces us we're asking the smart questions. You know, a proud person will never say they're stupid. They'll always say they're smart. If they said they were stupid, they'd be being humble. But they never say that. Edom's question, who will bring me down, echoes in every human heart. Who will expose my weakness? No one knows my weaknesses. I keep them close to the vest. No one knows. Who will challenge my authority? Not in this house, not in this church, not on this team, not at this job site. Who will question my methods? Who will dare to correct me? But that's the wrong question. The right question isn't who can bring me down. And each one of these faults that pride poisons, we're going to give a biblical response. Jesus, who had every right to stay high and exalted, asked a different question than who will bring me down. He asked, who needs me to come down? The cure for pride's persuasiveness isn't self-condemnation or fake piousness. We see that a lot. It's asking the right questions. Instead of who can challenge me, ask who can I serve? Who can I serve? Instead of who deserves my attention, ask who needs my compassion. Instead of who measures up to my standards, how can I lift others up? One way that pride persuades is that it tries to attach itself even to your blessings. Pride poisons even good things that the Lord gives you. It just doesn't attack your weaknesses. It poisons your blessings. Look at the blessings pride poisoned for Edom. Verse 3, their fortress. Verse 6, their fortunes. Verse 7, their friends. Verse 8, their mental faculties. They were smart. Verse 9, their mighty force. So we have fortress, which would be housing for us. We have fortunes, which would be our finances. We have friends, our network of friends and allies. They have their mental faculties, our ego and our intellectualism, our philosophical whereabouts, and their force. I'm strong. I'm strong in myself. I don't need help. I'm self-contained. All those can be blessings. There's nothing wrong with being smart. Nothing wrong with having money. Nothing wrong with having a good house. But pride will poison those. And you see how Edom gets poisoned with these in the reaction to their brother Israel. Let's look at the first one, the fortress. Housing pride. Picture this. I'm going to describe Petra too. This is where the Edomites lived. It was red sandstone cliffs. They were about 5,000 feet above sea level. And Edom lived in what we call Petra. And you're familiar with the word Petra from Peter, right? So it's a big rock. And it's literally carved into the rock face. You can go online and Google Petra. It's stunning. I mean, it looks like an Indiana Jones movie. It's amazing. Their capital was accessed through a narrow gorge called the Siq, S-I-Q, the Siq, barely wide enough for two horses to go in side by side, with both walls rising 200 feet on either side. So they were secure. It was a very secure place, high up, stone walls around, narrow entrance. You couldn't build a better fortress. When you see pictures today, I'm sure you'll look at it, your jaw's going to drop. You'll say, people live, that's crazy. They lived, houses carved into the stone, living stone. Anyone trying to attack had to funnel through this little bottleneck where a handful of defenders could slaughter an entire army. We've seen the movie 300. This is that on steroids. They had to go through this little bitty place to get to them, and they could handle their business there. The Edomites looked at those impregnable cliffs and said, who can touch us up here? We're impregnable. Nobody can come here. And pride sunk in. You know what that's like today? It's like the person who feels superior because they live in the right neighborhood. We even had TV shows named after zip codes. Right, 90210. We have people getting tattoos of zip codes or on their license plate. Their zip code is all that matter, or sometimes even their phone number, first digits, because it designates where they live. People are so proud of where they live, and they lift themselves up against people who don't live there. If you live in the right neighborhood, you might say stuff like, I would never live on that side of town. Look at what kind of house they live in. Oh, they live in that? I thought they lived in a real house. People have no idea what a home is. My zip code says something about who I am. We create our own rock fortresses in our gated communities, in our exclusive addresses when we live on the right side of the tracks. Now, living there isn't prideful, but being proud and looking down on others who don't, that is sinful. Nothing wrong with wanting to live in a safe neighborhood. I live in a safe neighborhood. I pray all of you live in a safe neighborhood. Nothing wrong with protecting your family from dangerous elements. The problem is that you can't build walls high enough to keep the sin out of your own heart. You think you're there, you think you're protected. I'm away from all this violence. I got my perfect environment. Sin can't come in here. I'll take you back to Genesis. Adam and Eve lived in the perfect environment. Didn't do anything for them. Don't get too proud about the environment around you. Be more concerned with the heart that's in you. The Edomites trusted the rock beneath their feet, but Jesus says we're supposed to trust the rock beneath our faith. When we trust in our addresses for identity and look down on those in lesser neighborhoods, we forget that Christ gave up heaven's perfect dwelling to make us his dwelling place. Now, you talk about living on the wrong side of town. He went from heaven to you. He did that for you. Our security isn't in our zip code. It is in being hidden in Christ with God. The fortune, financial pride. Look at verse 6. Oh, how Esau, so this is still just another name for Edom, the nation of Esau, will be searched out and his hidden treasures ransacked. Oh my. They had hidden things. They thought nobody could touch them. Secret treasures, stored wealth, financial security. They tucked everything away in secret places, convinced their wealth was safe and secure. And what's more secure than picturesque rock caves and hidden chambers? After all, who could come up there? They probably thought our wealth is untouchable, our financial future is guaranteed. And many think that today. We trust in our banks, our safes, our 401ks, our investment folios. We feel secure because we got money put away. And again, nothing wrong with that in itself. We got it hidden into accounts. We got it tucked into retirement funds. Maybe it's under your mattress. Please don't do that. Maybe it's stored in safe deposit boxes. But when our hidden treasures become our security, there's the difference now. We can start looking down on those who don't have what we've managed to store away. We look at family members struggling financially, and we all have those family members. And we think, well, if they had just saved like I did, if they just invested wisely, I told him, if they just planned ahead. Beloved, Jesus owned everything. Talk about being rich. He became poor so that through his poverty we might become rich. Would you ever consider that for someone you loved? Most people wouldn't. I might give him a little bit. No way I'm coming poor so he can become rich. When we hoard treasures in earthly banks, Christ invested everything in heavenly currency, the blood of the cross. It's the only currency that should matter. When we look down on struggling family members, we forget that we were all spiritually bankrupt before God. Christ didn't check your credit score before saving you. What he did see, though, was your spiritual poverty, and he gave us the riches of his grace. So don't get too high and mighty of the blessings of finance when God does bless you with those finances. Look at people in need and become poor so that they may become rich. Love others. Now, I'm not telling you to give away everything and be a burden on the church. I'm telling you to love others and help them. Look at the need. The friends, look at verse 7. All the men of thy confederacy. Oh, they had a lot of men in their confederacy. Confederacy is just a group of men. And look further down in verse 7, it says, they that eat thy bread. Oh, they had people over. We got house parties every week. Everybody loves us. We're not going to have any problems. Somebody will take care of us if we get in trouble. They worked the diplomatic game masterfully. We saw some of that this week on the news, right? Over in the UN. People trying to work out affiliations. They had treaties. They had mutual defense pacts. They had trade agreements. Edom was really wrapping themselves up in blankets of security. They were connected. They knew the right people. When trouble came, they thought, no worries, we got friends in high places. Our allies will protect us. Their political connections were their insurance policy. We do the same today. We feel secure because of who we know, what organizations we belong to, our professional network. I know people who know people. But friends, when judgment comes, your fair weather friends will become the storm. Again, we look to Jesus, who he knew this would happen before he came, that his earthly network would fail him. He knew Peter would deny him. He knew that Judas would betray him. He knew the disciples would flee. He wasn't worried about his network of friends. Yet knowing his closest friends would abandon him in his greatest hour of need, he stayed faithful to his mission to save us. While we trust in our connections for security, Christ trusted in his Father's will, even when it meant losing every earthly ally. Our true security isn't found in climbing social ladders. It's found in Christ alone. Our joy doesn't come from being adored by the world. It comes from serving God. Instead of building a network that brings people to us, we should lead them to Christ, not ourselves, and into his body, the church, because that is the sweetest network this side of heaven. You want to be in a group of people full of joy? Come into the church. And any security pact that excludes God is just a suicide pact. Don't be a fool. Verse 8, their mental faculties, intellectual pride. Verse 8 mentions the destruction of the wise men out of Edom. Did you know Edom had wise men? Wow, they had it all. Tough group. This is fascinating. Edom was famous throughout the ancient world for their wisdom. Job's friend, Eliphaz, he was a Temanite. He came from Edom. Teman. We'll say the word Teman here in a little bit. Very wise people. These weren't uneducated people. They were the Princeton of the ancient Near East. And when I was trying to find a college, I said, I can't say Harvard. I can't say. I got to find a conservative college that's intellectual. So they were the Princeton of the ancient Near East. They prided themselves on their sophisticated culture, their philosophical insights, their strategic thinking. Sound familiar? We're proud of our degrees, our expertise, our ability to win arguments. We feel superior to the uneducated family member who didn't go to college, or the brother who makes what we call foolish decisions according to our standards. We can analyze everyone else's problems, yet we can't see our own pride. We can solve the world's issues, yet we can't fix our own heart. Think about that for a moment. We can diagnose everyone else's problems with surgical precision. Oh, I know what his problem is. But we're blind to see the cancer of pride eating away at our own souls. We're just ridden with it. Without a knowledge of Jesus, all education, all of it, is just splendid ignorance. You want to know something? Know Christ. Christ is the wisdom of God. 1 Corinthians 1:24. Christ is the wisdom of God. In him are hidden all treasures of wisdom and knowledge. Colossians 2:3. But Christ was called a madman by the intellectuals of his day. John 10:20. They called him a madman. The cross appears as foolishness to those who are perishing, but to us who are being saved, it is the power of God. 1 Corinthians 1:18. The most brilliant person without Christ is infinitely more foolish than the simplest believer who knows Jesus. 1 Corinthians 3:19. Beloved, an educated person who doesn't know Christ without knowledge of the Lord is just a clever devil. And we know his end. The Edomites trusted in their wisdom. They thought they had it figured out. But human wisdom is a fragile thing. Think about the builders of the Titanic thought the same. There was a quote that floated around during the time of the Titanic. Here's the quote: "Even God can't sink this ship." I think the Titanic's still at the bottom of the Atlantic. It's better to be in a fisherman's boat with Jesus when the storm comes than in a Titanic of your own wisdom without him. Look at verse 9. Their mighty force. Wow, they had a fortress, they had a fortune, they had friends, they had mental faculties, they had it all going on, and it's just crumbling apart. But let's look at their force. At least they're mighty, right? Verse 9, and thy mighty men, O Teman, see, there's the Temanite, O Teman, shall be dismayed to the end that every one of the mount of Esau may be cut off by slaughter. Edom had mighty men, elite warriors, military strength, the confidence that comes from having the strongest army in the region. We say, here's what we say: I can handle my own problems. I don't need church. Bunch of hypocrites. I'm stronger than they are anyway. I don't need help from anyone. Even if you do come to church, I'm strong enough to take care of myself. It's the pride in you that says you're self-sufficient, that you can fight your own battles, that you can handle your own struggles. We see this in families all the time. You got the strong brother who never asks for help, never admits weakness, never lets anyone see him struggle until it's too late. But when God's judgment comes, even the mighty men become dismayed. All that strength, all that self-sufficiency, all that I can handle anything attitude, it crumbles. You know, self-sufficiency is just another way of saying God deficiency. If you're self-sufficient, you're deceiving yourself. And you see how pride just sneaks in there? Oh, you're strong. You can do it. You don't need help. It isolates you. Pride will isolate you. Jesus, talk about being strong and mighty, could have called 12 legions of angels to his defense. Matthew 26:53. He had plenty of force. But he chose instead to be weak so that we might be strong. He who spoke worlds into existence, all things were made by him, allowed himself to be so weakened he couldn't even carry his own cross. John 19:17. He became so weak so that we could find strength in him. 2 Corinthians 13:4. He became weak for a purpose. He became weak with that intention so that we might become strong. He just didn't get weak. He became weak. Many of us don't reach out for help until we get weak. None of us will ever humble ourselves and come for help because we're too proud. I got this. True strength is found in admitting our weaknesses and depending on his strength. His strength. You know, I can do all things through him. Well, what's the opposite? I can't do anything without him. You can't do anything without him. You can't even draw your next breath without the Lord. So that is the first two. We have pride persuades, pride poisons blessings. We're moving on to the third point. Pride promotes more sin. It just doesn't stop with your ego being inflated. Look at verses 10 through 14. Because you violently slaughtered your relatives, the people of Jacob, shame will come over you and you will be destroyed forever. I'm reading the NET version here, and I'll get to why I'm doing that. Verse 11, you stood aloof. Verse 12, you should not have gloated. I think the LSB says looked down or looked. You should not have rejoiced over. Verse 13, you should not have looted. Verse 14, you should not have stood at the fork in the road to slaughter those trying to escape. Here's where pride's persuasive power leads you to commit violence against your brother. Unrestrained, it would happen to all of us. Notice the progression. First, aloofness. First, you're just aloof. You're indifferent. Then you have contempt. Then you start rejoicing in their downfall. Then you start participating. When pride is set loose and restraints against evil are lifted, that's what happens. It starts with aloofness, ends with slaughter. Look at stage one, aloofness. We just call that indifference because aloof is such a funny word. We're going to use the word indifference. You stood aloof. When Jerusalem was under attack, when Jacob's descendants were being destroyed, where was Edom? They were standing on the other side. Not helping, not involved, just watching. They stood aloof. Your brother's under attack, financially, emotionally, spiritually, and you happen to be out of pocket. Another word for that is uninvested. You're aloof. You got too much going on. It's his problem anyway. He got himself into this. You don't get involved. You don't help. You just watch. Think about the relative who watches family drama unfold on social media but never reaches out to help them. You know what's going on. Why can't you reach out to them? The sibling who hears through the family grapevine that their brother lost his job but never calls to check on him. The successful child who makes excuses to avoid visiting aging parents who need assistance. The relative who sees themselves as the family's stable one while others deal with chaos. I'm not getting in that mess. You stand aloof. You separate yourself from them. I'm neutral in this. I'll just stay out of it. That's how we like to say it. You're so pious. Neutrality in family crisis is taking the wrong side. God says when you stand aloof while your family suffers, you become as one of them, one of their enemies. When your family and they're in trouble and you stand aloof, you're aiding and abetting the enemy. You can't do that. It's not optional. But pride never stays neutral for long. Indifference breeds contempt. When you convince yourself you're staying out of it for good reasons, pride starts whispering that you're actually the wise one. Watching fools get what they deserve after all. Stay out of this. This isn't your fight. If it's family, it is your fight. Step 2, so you start with aloofness. Now you start looking down with contempt. Now your book may have, you should not have looked when your relative suffered calamity. A better interpretation is you should not have gloated. You should not have looked down with them with contempt, based on the Hebrew construction here. The Hebrew word here suggests gloating, staring with satisfaction at someone's downfall. It's the look that says, well, what did you expect would happen? I've been warning you for years. All right, well, I guess you better call somebody. And then you leave. Modern family examples would be the relative who watches their brother lose his dream house and feels vindicated for calling him financially irresponsible. Well, I warned him. Too bad. The family member who visits but spends time mentally cataloging everything that's wrong. You ever see people like that? Oh, man, did you see this? Oh, she looked pretty rough, didn't she? The sibling who watches their perfect sister's child. So you've got a brother or a sister, and you're watching their child get in trouble, and then all of a sudden you feel smug about your parenting. Yep, I told her that girl was going to end up like that. You get smug about it. The family member who sees their brother's health fail after years of knowing better about his lifestyle choices. And once contempt for a loved one takes root, it's a short step to something even uglier. What starts as, I saw this coming, becomes, I'm glad it's finally happening. Stage 3, celebrating their destruction. Neither, God says, shouldest thou have rejoiced over the children of Judah in the day of their destruction. Now we move from indifference to contempt to actual celebration. You're not just watching your brother suffer, you're enjoying it. Who's been there before? Now, I know when I was a young lad, I used to like it when my sisters got in trouble. I pray I've grown out of that now. But you'll speak proudly while they're in distress. It's finding joy in your brother's pain because it makes you feel superior. Some examples today. The barely concealed satisfaction in your face when the golden child's life implodes. You can't hardly contain yourself. Oh boy, I've been waiting on this. The family member who says, I hate to say it, but he clearly loves saying it. You call other family members to share the news about someone's divorce with obvious excitement in your voice. The family member who posts on social media about karma finally catching up when their relative's business fails. We've seen those people. The final stage is the most shocking, yet it follows so naturally. Once you move from watching to enjoying someone's downfall, why not get involved? After all, they deserve what's happening, right? Might as well benefit from their bad choices. Can't let this opportunity go to waste, can we? Stage 4, active participation in the harm, looting and cutting off escape routes. This is what Edom was doing to Israel. They were looting them and cutting off their escape routes, giving them back to their captives. It's the final stage. You're not just watching, not just enjoying, you're actively participating in their destruction. You're looting their resources while they're down. You're blocking their escape routes when they're trying to recover. It's like lending money to desperate relatives at unfair interest rates to teach them responsibility. He's got to learn, and I'm going to be the one to teach him. Sabotaging job opportunities because they need to learn the hard way, like I did. Withholding character references that could help them rebuild. Bad-mouthing them to mutual friends and extended family during their recovery attempts. Why would you do that? Pride. You see the progression? It starts so innocently. Indifference. That's not my problem. Let's keep your head down, honey. Let's not get involved. It's not our problem. Contempt. I saw this coming. I saw it coming. Celebration. Good. It's about time. They got what they deserved. Participation. I got to get in on this. This is too good an opportunity to waste. Or here's one we've all heard. Oh, I've been waiting for this day. We've all heard that or said it. That's pride. Each stage feels justified. You see how it just pulls you just a little bit further in? Pulls you a little further in. Each step feels reasonable, but by the end you become an active participant in your family's destruction. No, sin is like gravity. Once you start falling, it's hard to stop until you hit bottom. You'll just keep falling into more sin, falling into more sin, falling into more sin. When someone is drowning, think about this, and you have a life preserver, but you choose to watch them sink because they should have learned to swim, that's horrendous. What about when your brother is struggling financially and you won't help because he should have been more responsible like me? What's the difference? Or when your sister's marriage is falling apart and you distance yourself because I don't want to be associated with that mess. Beloved, while we were enemies of God through our sin, making every wrong choice possible, Christ didn't stand on the other side watching us suffer. He didn't look down on us with contempt. He didn't rejoice in our destruction. He didn't participate in our harm. Instead, Romans 5:8 tells us, while we were still sinners, Christ died for us. Thankfully, he didn't wait for us to get our act together, like many of us do with others in need. When we were under attack by sin, Satan, and death, Jesus didn't stand aloof. He stepped into battle. When we were strangers to God through our rebellion, he didn't look down with contempt. He looked on us with compassion. When we faced destruction for our sins, he didn't rejoice, he wept. And instead of participating in our harm, he absorbed all the harm we deserve. He saw us at our worst, rebellious, broken, making terrible choices that led to spiritual, emotional, and relational destruction, and instead of violence, he offered grace. Instead of cutting us off, he drew us closer. Instead of withholding help, he gave his life. When pride tempts us to violence against our struggling brothers and sisters, the cross calls us to pursue them in their mess. Go after them. Don't flee from them, just as Christ pursued us in ours. Here's the test. When your family member is at their lowest point, making their worst choices, facing their biggest failures, what's your first instinct? What's your first instinct when you hear about it? Is it to stand on the other side to protect your reputation? Is it to look down on them with I told you so contempt? Is it to feel secretly pleased that they're finally getting what's coming to them, or to take advantage of the weakness or block their recovery? Or is it to step into their battle? I got to get over there. We got to go. Do you look on them with compassion? Do you grieve over their destruction? And do you actively participate in their restoration? Thoughts and prayers are wonderful. God calls us to move. Your answer reveals whether you're walking in Edom's pride or Christ's humility. And then finally, the last thing, it provokes God's judgment. So we see pride persuade you. We see it poison your blessings. We're going to see here that it promotes more sin, and finally is provoking God's judgment. The pattern's clear. Persuasion, poisoning, promotes more sin and God's judgment. We all know Proverbs 16:18, right? I had to throw that verse in here. I'm talking about pride. How can I not throw that verse in here? Pride goes before destruction, and a haughty spirit before stumbling. But that sounds proverbial. It's a proverb after all. It's not really a promise. It's a proverb. But go to 16:5. Look at Proverbs 16:5. It's explicit. and why destruction comes, and that it will definitely come. Here's Proverbs 16:5. Everyone who is proud in heart is an abomination to Yahweh. Semicolon. Assuredly, he will not be unpunished. And just so no one thinks that since they're not from the tribes of Edom or Israel, well, these brothers, they're a mess. I'm glad I'm not involved in that. Uh-oh. Guess what? Look at verse 15. Obadiah 1:15. For the day of Yahweh is near upon Edom and Israel. No, it is all nations. Listen to this part. As you have done it, it shall be done to you. Your deeds shall return on your own head. God says what you have done will come back on your own head. That's the divine law of pride right there. It's not just a principle, it's a promise. The hand that pushes others down will one day be pushed down. The eyes that look down in contempt will one day look up in shame. The mouth that boasts will one day be silenced before the judge of all, and the heart that elevates itself will one day be humbled in the dust. Look, the higher you climb on pride's ladder, the longer the fall when God kicks it out from under you. He said, what you have done to others will be done to you. Pride just doesn't make enemies of people, it makes enemies of God. Verse 15 just told you that. James 4:6 says plainly, God resists the proud, but gives grace to the humble. And we thank God he does that. The word resist is military language in the Greek. It's a picture of God himself. He's setting up battle lines. Imagine that. You got your fortress, you got your fortune, you got your friends, you got your mental faculties, and you got your force. And on the other side, you got God. It's not going to end well for you. Who do you think wins that battle? Beloved, you can't outclimb God, you can't outfinance him, you can't outsmart him, you can't outfight him, you can't outrun him. When pride provokes his judgment, the fall is inevitable. Pride always ends in judgment because pride itself is rebellion against God's throne. It's cosmic treason, and God will not let rebellion stand forever. But here's the hope. The judgment that we provoked in our pride fell on Jesus at the cross. He drank the cup of wrath so that we could drink the cup of grace. He was brought down to the grave so we could be lifted up. That's the choice before us today. Remain in Edom's pride and fall under God's judgment, or humble yourself at the cross and rise under God's mercy. You know, at the start of this sermon, I asked you, are you too blessed to be a blessing? Do you just have too many blessings that you can't be bothered with people who need those? Every blessing that makes you feel superior is a blessing that's being poisoned by pride. Your fortress becomes a tower to look down from. Your fortune becomes a reason to judge others without it. Your friends become a club that excludes the struggling. Your intelligence becomes a weapon against the foolish. Your strength becomes an excuse to let the weak fend for themselves. When you're too blessed to be a blessing, your blessings become curses. But there's another way, and we know this. Jesus was blessed beyond measure. We've heard that, right? You're blessed beyond measure. Jesus was blessed beyond measure. He had the ultimate fortress, heaven itself. He had the ultimate fortune, all of riches of glory. The ultimate friends, angels who worshiped him. The ultimate intelligence, the wisdom of God. The ultimate strength, the power that spoke worlds into existence. Yet he wasn't too blessed to be a blessing. He left his fortress to dwell among us. He emptied his fortune to make us rich. He lost his friends to gain us his family. He appeared foolish to make us wise. And he became weak to make us strong. The choice is still before us. Don't be too blessed to be a blessing. This week's call to action, and we got just a couple minutes left. Expose your pride. Expose your pride. Which of Obadiah's false securities, whether it's your fortune, your fortress, your friends, your faculties, or your force, are you tempted to lean on? Where do you quietly feel superior? You don't have to admit it to us. Where do you feel superior? Name one person. Don't judge them. Serve them. Step off the sidelines and step into their struggle. Take pride for grace. Choose a concrete step. Swap indifference for involvement. Swap a proud stare for a compassionate gaze. Swap harm for a healing presence. Check your motives. This is important. This is so important. Are you helping to prove you're better, or because Christ humbled himself to serve you? If you're doing it to prove something to yourself, you got the wrong motivation. Go back and read the gospel. Now, pride tears down, but humility builds up. That's what we've learned today. Everything that Christ had, he gave away for our benefit. Don't be remembered as the one who had it all together, but as the one who lifts others up while they're falling apart. Brother Paul, can you close us in prayer?
Heavenly Father,